A simple hug from a stranger changes a little girl's world and teaches a billionaire father what money could never buy. Ethan Ward sat in his sleek, high-rise office, staring out at the city below, his mind somewhere far away. The sunlight bounced off the glass buildings, casting long shadows, but he barely noticed. His work, the billions he had earned, the technology empire he had built from scratch, it all seemed hollow compared to the quiet ache in his heart. Since losing his wife 3 years ago, life had felt incomplete. He had thrown himself into work, building companies, signing deals, and attending endless meetings, but none of it could fill the emptiness that came every time he saw his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, look at him with questions she didn't have words for. Lily was a bright child, with big brown eyes, that often reflected more than she could say. She had her mother's smile, the one that could light up any room, yet these days, it was more like a faint shadow. Ethan tried to keep her life normal, hiring nannies and tutors, scheduling activities and play dates, but nothing could replace the warmth of a mother's presence. Sometimes he wondered if he had failed her. He loved her deeply, of course, but love alone could not answer the questions that bubbled up in her little heart. On this particular Friday, Ethan decided to take a rare day off. He wanted to spend time with Lily, away from the cold corridors of his office and the constant buzzing of his phone. He knew she liked small surprises, simple things, and maybe a change of pace would help. He thought a trip to the park or a new toy might cheer her up, but Lily had something else in mind. She wanted pancakes, the kind that weren't served in 5-star hotels or fancy restaurants, but in a small cozy diner she had seen on a weekend outing once. Ethan smiled at her insistence. It was odd, he thought, how a place so ordinary could suddenly hold so much importance in a child's life. They arrived at the diner on a quiet street. Far from the noise of the city, the smell of syrup, coffee, and fresh bread immediately made Lily's face light up. She grabbed Ethan's hand and pulled him toward a small booth by the window. The sunlight streamed in, catching her hair and making it glow. Ethan watched her settle in, noticing how serious she looked, as if she carried a weight too big for her little shoulders. She ordered pancakes with a quiet determination, her small fingers tapping impatiently on the table while waiting. Ethan sat across from her, trying to think of what to say, how to make her feel happy, how to bridge the silence that had grown between them. He tried jokes, funny faces, and questions about her day, but Lily seemed distant, almost absorbed in something he couldn't see. Then she asked the question that hit him like a punch to the chest. "Daddy, can Mommy come back?" Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but the pain in it was unmistakable. Ethan froze. He had heard the question before, countless times in private moments. But hearing it spoken aloud in public, in a place so ordinary, made the reality hit even harder. He wanted to explain, to reassure her, to promise her something he couldn't give. But there were no words. He reached across the table and held her small hands in his. Feeling the fragility of her innocence and the deep longing in her heart, Ethan realized that for all his wealth, all his power, all his ability to control every aspect of his life, he could not fix this. He could not bring her mother back. He could only be there, present, and hope that somehow would be enough. As they waited for their order, Ethan watched Lily carefully. She stared out the window at the street, pointing at small things that caught her attention: a dog running by, a balloon floating above a market stall, but her mind seemed elsewhere. He remembered how she used to talk endlessly about her mother, about bedtime stories, and about the little things she missed. Now, those questions had grown heavier, more persistent. He felt a sharp guilt. He was rich beyond imagination, could buy anything he wanted. Yet the one thing he wanted most for his daughter was beyond his reach. The diner staff bustled quietly around them, unaware of the emotional storm sitting in the small booth. Lily finally rested her head on the table, and Ethan felt a pang of helplessness. He tried to distract her with silly stories, whispering about imaginary adventures and secret worlds, but it didn't reach her. It wasn't the answer she was looking for. Ethan sighed and looked at the menu, realizing that sometimes life's most precious moments weren't about wealth or control, but about presence. attention, and the tiny gestures that made someone feel safe. It was in that quiet moment, as he watched his daughter, that Ethan became acutely aware of the fragility of life, the fleeting nature of happiness, and the profound importance of connection. He promised himself silently that he would find a way not just to provide for Lily in material terms, but to give her the emotional support, the warmth, and the love she deserved. He didn't know how or when, but he knew something had to change. Sitting there holding her little hands, Ethan understood that this ordinary Friday, as a small, unremarkable diner, could become a turning point. It was a reminder that the most important things in life couldn't be bought, and sometimes, even a billionaire had to learn how to simply be present for the one person who mattered most. Lily looked up at him suddenly, her eyes glistening, and for a brief moment, she smiled. It was fragile, fleeting, but it was a start. Ethan held that smile in his heart as they waited for their pancakes, realizing that healing, connection, and love were not found in grand gestures but in quiet, ordinary moments that spoke louder than words ever could. The diner was warm and cozy, with the faint smell of coffee and baked bread filling the air. Lily sat quietly in the booth, her small hands wrapped around a glass of juice, big brown eyes looking down at the table. Ethan sat across from her, his thoughts heavy and restless. He wanted to comfort her, but he felt helpless. He had tried words, gestures, and even little distractions, but nothing seemed to ease the sadness that lingered in her eyes. She missed her mother, and Ethan knew that no matter what he did, he could never bring her back. He could only be there for her, quietly, patiently, and with all the love he had. At that moment, a young waitress approached their booth. Her name was Mia Carter. She was in her late 20s, with a warm smile and kind eyes that seemed to notice things most people overlooked. She had been working at the diner for several years, serving regular customers and newcomers alike. But she had a special talent for reading emotions, especially those of children. As she walked toward Ethan and Lily, she noticed the little girl's slumped posture and the sorrow in her eyes. She instinctively knew that this was not a usual frown caused by hunger or boredom. There was a deeper sadness, one that called for attention and care. "Hi there," Mia said gently, kneeling slightly so she was closer to Lily's level. "My name is Mia. What's yours?" Lily looked up at her, unsure at first. She had seen many people in her life, but something about Mia's eyes and voice felt different, calm, understanding, and safe. "I'm Lily," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Mia smiled and nodded, giving Lily space to feel comfortable. "You seem a little sad today, Lily," Mia continued softly. "Do you want to tell me about it?" Lily hesitated, glancing at her father, who was watching quietly. Ethan felt a mix of curiosity and nervousness. He had never seen anyone connect with Lily like this before, and part of him felt relieved that someone else might help her open up. But he also worried, would Lily trust this stranger? Would she share her pain? Slowly, Lily nodded, her small fingers fidgeting with the edge of the table. I miss my mommy," she admitted, her voice shaking slightly. "I want her to come back." What? Mia's heart ached. She had lost her own mother as a child and remembered the same hollow, aching feeling. Without hesitation, she reached out and gently placed a hand on Lily's tiny shoulder. "I understand, sweetie," she said softly. "It's okay to miss her. It's okay to feel sad. Wanting someone you love is a very normal thing." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned a little closer, drawn by the warmth and understanding in Mia's voice. For the first time in weeks, she felt like someone truly heard her. Ethan watched, astonished. He had tried everything to comfort her: stories, jokes, toys, but nothing had reached her the way Mia's simple presence did. It was just a touch, a kind word, and complete attention, yet it worked wonders. Lily's body relaxed, and a small, tentative smile began to form on her lips. Mia continued to speak softly, sharing a story from her own childhood. She told Lily about the times she had felt lonely and missed her mother terribly, about how she had learned to carry the love of someone gone in her heart and still find happiness in the people around her. Lily listened intently, her tears slowing as she absorbed Mia's words. She felt understood, and for a moment, the heavy weight in her chest seemed lighter. Then, almost instinctively, Lily did something that surprised both Ethan and Mia. She hugged her. It was a small, tight hug, full of trust and need. Mia held her gently, rocking her slightly, letting her pour out the sadness she had been carrying alone for so long. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He realized that this stranger, this waitress he barely knew, had given his daughter a gift he could not. She had given her comfort, understanding, and the feeling of being safe. Watching the embrace, he saw something he hadn't seen in weeks, a flicker of peace in Lily's eyes, a sign that she could feel better, even if just for a moment. Mia slowly pulled back, keeping her hand on Lily's back, and smiled warmly. "You're so brave, Lily," she said softly. "It's okay to miss someone. It just means you love them very much." Lily nodded, her small face resting against Mia's chest for a second longer before she pulled away. Ethan sat quietly, feeling a mix of gratitude, relief, and wonder. He realized that wealth and power could buy anything, but they couldn't buy the kind of empathy and connection Mia had just shown. For the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope that maybe someone else could help him help his daughter as they waited for their food. Lily kept glancing at Mia, smiling shyly. Ethan noticed the change in her mood. She was talking a little more, asking questions about Mia's day, about the diner, about small things that showed her curiosity was returning. Ethan felt a surge of emotion, pride, relief, and a quiet gratitude. He had watched his daughter struggle for so long, feeling powerless, and now, just by being herself, Mia had sparked something in Lily's heart. Ethan realized that this moment in the diner, ordinary as it seemed, was extraordinary in its impact. A simple act of kindness, a genuine connection, had reached his daughter in a way nothing else could. He felt a mix of awe and humility, understanding that the most important things in life weren't wealth, status, or power. They were moments of love, tension, and understanding. And sometimes, those moments came from unexpected places. Mia smiled at Ethan and nodded slightly, acknowledging him without saying much. She understood that her role was to help Lily feel seen and safe, not to judge or interfere. Ethan returned the nod, feeling a silent gratitude he couldn't put into words. As Lily finished her juice, she leaned back in her seat, looking more relaxed than she had in weeks. She whispered a soft thank you to Mia, and Mia winked, saying, "Anytime. Lily, anytime." In that small diner, surrounded by the hum of everyday life, a bond had begun to form, one that would change all their lives in ways Ethan could not yet imagine. He realized that healing sometimes came from strangers, from simple gestures, and from moments of genuine care that couldn't be bought. He knew that this encounter, this hug, and this shared understanding were not just fleeting comforts, they were the first steps toward something bigger, something that could help Lily feel loved, safe, and truly happy again. Ethan left the diner that day with a quiet sense of hope. He had seen his daughter smile, laugh softly, and experience a comfort he hadn't been able to provide alone. He also realized that in Mia, there was someone extraordinary, not for her wealth or status, but for her heart, her ability to understand, and the simple kindness she had shown. And as he held Lily's hand walking back to the car, he silently promised himself that he would do whatever it took to ensure she had more moments like this, moments of warmth, love, and connection that money could never buy. Ethan drove home with Lily quietly sitting beside him, her small fingers intertwined with his. The city streets blurred past as he tried to process what had just happened at the diner. He couldn't stop thinking about the way Mia had comforted Lily, how effortlessly she had reached his daughter's heart in a way. He couldn't. It wasn't just the hug, it was the understanding, the warmth, the complete attention she had given without judgment or expectation. Ethan had money, power, and influence, yet in that small diner, he realized none of it mattered in the face of real human connection. At home, Ethan tucked Lily into bed, watching her eyelids grow heavy. For the first time in days, she seemed at peace, her breathing calm, her small body relaxed. Ethan lingered in the doorway, feeling a mix of relief and guilt. Relief that Lily had felt comforted, guilt that he hadn't been able to provide that himself. He quietly promised her once again that he would always be there, that he would do better, that he would try harder to understand and nurture her. But even as he said it to himself, he knew he had a lot to learn. The next morning, Ethan found his mind returning to Mia. He hadn't thought much about the diner. Waitress before she was just someone doing her job, but now her presence felt significant. He remembered the softness of her voice, the empathy in her eyes, and the way Lily's face had lit up under her care. He realized that Mia possessed something rare, an innate ability to connect, to comfort, to make someone feel seen. He wondered if it was something she did for every child who came into the diner, or if there was something unique about Lily that drew Mia in. Either way, he felt a spark of gratitude and curiosity that he couldn't ignore. Over the next few days, Ethan noticed changes in Lily. She laughed a little more. She talked about small things with a newfound energy, and she asked fewer questions about her mother in moments of despair. It wasn't a complete transformation. Her grief was still there, but there was a visible shift. Ethan watched her with quiet awe, realizing that one brief encounter had made such a profound impact on his daughter. He felt a mix of hope and wonder. Perhaps this was the start of something bigger, something that could help heal the pieces of their lives that had been broken. A week later, Ethan decided to take Lily back to the diner. He wasn't entirely sure why, whether it was for Lily or himself, but he knew it felt important. When they walked in, Mia was at the counter, her warm smile lighting up the space as soon as she saw them. Lily's face brightened instantly, and she ran toward her, throwing her arms around Mia in a tight hug. Ethan watched from a distance, a lump forming in his throat. He realized that what he had seen before was no fluke. Mia genuinely cared for his daughter. The bond was real, and it was growing. Mia knelt down to Lily's level again, speaking softly and gently. Ethan noticed how naturally she engaged with her, asking questions about school, friends, and little daily experiences. Lily responded openly, sharing stories and thoughts she hadn't expressed in weeks. Ethan felt both relief and awe. He realized that Mia wasn't just comforting Lily in the moment. She was giving her tools to express herself, to process her feelings, and to regain a sense of joy that had been missing. For Ethan, this was both humbling and eye-opening. He had tried to do this himself, but he often failed because he was distracted, anxious, and unsure how to approach his daughter's emotions. Mia made it seem effortless. Ethan's admiration for Mia grew quietly, almost unnoticed by her. She treated Lily with patience, understanding, and respect. She never patronized her or dismissed her feelings. She simply listened, empathized, and responded in ways that made Lily feel valued and safe. Ethan realized that Mia's presence highlighted what he had been missing in his parenting time: tension and genuine emotional connection. He felt a mix of guilt and gratitude. Guilt for not being able to give Lily this consistently himself, and gratitude that someone like Mia existed in their lives, even if just for brief moments. One afternoon, as they were leaving the diner, a sudden rainstorm started. Ethan offered Mia a ride home since she had no umbrella. She hesitated at first, smiling politely, but agreed. During the drive, they talked casually at first about the rain, the diner, and small daily details. Ethan noticed how easy it felt to talk to her, how natural her conversation flowed. Slowly, the discussion shifted. Mia spoke briefly about her own life, about the struggles she had faced, and about the little joys she found in helping people, especially children. Ethan listened intently, impressed not only by her compassion, but also by her strength. During the ride, Ethan realized he hadn't told Mia who he really was, not about his wealth, his business empire, or his status in the world. Yet, she treated him like any other person, with no awe or judgment, only genuine kindness and respect. It struck him deeply. In a life filled with people who were often impressed by his money or intimidated by his success, Mia's indifference to wealth was refreshing and grounding. She valued the person, not the fortune. And in that moment, Ethan felt a connection that went beyond gratitude. It felt real and honest. When they reached her apartment, Ethan thanked her quietly, feeling an unexpected nervousness. Mia smiled and said, "It's nothing, really. I just care about Lily. She's a sweet girl." Ethan nodded, realizing that this nothing meant more than he could express. He knew that Mia had done more for Lily than he had been able to in months of effort. She had brought light to his daughter's sadness and reminded him of the importance of human connection. Driving home, Ethan reflected on the past few weeks. He realized that the hug, the conversation, and the empathy Mia had shown weren't just small moments. They were transformative. Lily's small gestures of happiness, the ease in her laughter, and her willingness to talk again were all signs that healing was beginning. And for Ethan, the realization was even more profound. Mia had become more than a kind stranger. She was a catalyst for change in their lives. That night, Ethan watched Lily fall asleep with a peaceful expression. He felt a mix of hope and cautious optimism. He understood that his daughter's heart was fragile, but with people like Mia in their lives, there was a path forward. He also understood that he had to learn, to grow, and to be more present, more attentive, and more emotionally open as a father. For the first time in a long while, he felt that maybe, just maybe, things could get better not through wealth or control, but through connection, understanding. In genuine human care, Ethan realized that life often surprised people in the smallest, quietest ways. A simple gesture, a kind word, a hug from someone who cared, could change everything. And as he sat in the dim light of his home, listening to the gentle breathing of his daughter in the next room, he promised himself he would never forget the lesson Mia had shown him, that love, empathy, and attention could heal wounds money never could. And sometimes, strangers could teach the most valuable lessons in life. Over the next few weeks, Ethan found himself thinking about Mia more often than he expected. He couldn't explain it at first. It wasn't about attraction or curiosity, at least not in the usual way. It was something deeper. He admired the way she connected with Lily, the patience in her voice, the ease with which she could make his daughter feel safe and understood. Ethan realized that for all his wealth and experience, he had never encountered someone who could reach his daughter's heart so naturally. The thought made him both grateful and restless, wondering how he could bring more of that positivity into Lily's life. One sunny afternoon, Ethan decided to take Lily back to the diner. At first, it was just for Lily, a way for her to see Mia and spend time in a place where she felt comfortable and happy. Lily's eyes lit up as they approached, and she ran toward Mia, throwing herself into another tight hug. Ethan watched from a distance, feeling a lump form in his throat again. The way Mia embraced Lily was gentle, protective, and warm. And Ethan realized that she had become an emotional anchor for his daughter. Watching them together, he understood that this bond was growing naturally. Slowly and beautifully, Mia knelt beside Lily, listening as the little girl spoke about her week at school, her drawings, and the games she had played. Ethan noticed how patient Mia was, how she let Lily speak without interrupting, asking gentle questions that encouraged the child to open up more. Lily laughed for the first time in days, a light, clear laugh that seemed to erase some of the sadness from her small face. Ethan felt a surge of emotion, relief, gratitude, and awe. He realized that Mia was giving Lily something far beyond comfort. She was giving her confidence, a sense of being heard, and the reassurance that her feelings mattered. Ethan himself found unexpected comfort in these visits. Watching Mia interact with Lily, seeing his daughter happy and engaged, gave him a sense of hope he hadn't felt in years. He started to understand that parenting wasn't just about providing material needs, it was about emotional presence, connection, and guidance. Mia had shown him how simple acts of kindness and attention could have a profound impact, and he silently vowed to be more attentive, more patient, and more understanding with Lily. As weeks passed, Ethan began to notice that Mia's influence extended beyond Lily. The warmth she brought into the diner and into his daughter's life seemed to ripple outward, touching him in subtle ways. He found himself wanting to learn more about her, to know her story, her dreams, and her values. But he was careful. He didn't want to overstep boundaries, especially because Mia's relationship with Lily was pure and genuine. He simply wanted to understand the person who had become so important to his daughter's happiness. One rainy evening, after another visit to the diner, Ethan offered Mia a ride home. The sky was heavy with clouds, and raindrops tapped against the windshield as they drove through quiet city streets. The conversation began casually about the weather, the diner, and the simple joys of everyday life, but gradually, it shifted to more personal topics. Mia spoke about her childhood, the challenges she had faced, and the experiences that had shaped her into the compassionate person she was today. Ethan listened intently, impressed not only by her kindness, but also by her strength and resilience. During the drive, Ethan realized something important. He hadn't told Mia who he really was, not about his wealth, his status, or the empire he had built. Yet she treated him like any other person, with respect and warmth, focusing on who he was rather than what he owned. That realization struck him deeply. In a world where people often treated him differently because of his fortune, Mia's indifference to wealth was refreshing. She valued the person, not the money, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt a connection that was genuine and unpressured. When they arrived at Mia's apartment, she thanked him with a simple smile. Ethan felt a strange mix of nervousness and anticipation. He had spent so long managing his life, controlling every detail, and yet here he was, unsure of how to express his gratitude or even how to define the feelings growing inside him. Mia waved and said, "It's nothing really. Lily is just wonderful. I enjoy spending time with her." Ethan nodded, understanding that for Mia, helping Lily wasn't about recognition or reward, it was about genuine care and kindness. That realization made him respect her even more. The following weeks were filled with small but meaningful interactions. Ethan started bringing Lily to the diner more regularly, not only for her sake, but also because he found comfort in the environment Mia created. They would sit together, Lily chatting and laughing, Mia encouraging her gently, and Ethan quietly observing, learning from the way Mia nurtured his daughter's confidence and joy. These moments became precious, small fragments of life that made him reevaluate his priorities. He realized that wealth, power, and material success were meaningless if they couldn't bring happiness and stability to the people he loved most. One afternoon, as they left the diner, Lily tugged at Ethan's hand. "Daddy," she said softly, "can we bring Miss Mia home one day?" Ethan chuckled softly, heart swelling with emotion. It was a simple request, but it revealed just how deeply Mia had connected with his daughter. He looked at Mia, who smiled warmly at Lily, and realized that perhaps it was time to think about a more permanent role for Mia in their lives, not just as a friend, but as a positive presence who could help them heal and grow together. Ethan began contemplating the idea carefully. He didn't want to pressure Mia or rush anything, but he also understood that some bonds were rare and precious. The connection between Mia and Lily was undeniable, and he wanted to nurture it, protect it, and allow it to grow naturally. He thought about the future, imagining family dinners, shared holidays, and moments of laughter and support that could become the foundation of a stronger, happier life for his daughter. Over time, Ethan and Mia's interactions deepened as well. They would talk about life, work, and dreams. Learning to understand each other beyond the initial connection through Lily, Ethan admired Mia's resilience. Her empathy and the way she could make others feel seen without ever expecting anything in return. For Mia, Ethan's presence became more than a client or a wealthy parent. He was someone she respected, someone who genuinely cared for Lily, and someone who was learning to grow as a father and a person. Through these weeks, Ethan came to a profound realization. Family wasn't defined solely by blood or legal ties. It was defined by care, trust, and emotional connection. Mia had become a bridge between his daughter's grief and the happiness she deserved. She was a reminder that love could come from unexpected places, and that sometimes the people who helped heal hearts were not those we expected, but those who showed up with genuine kindness and patience by the end of this period. Ethan noticed a significant change in Lily. She laughed more freely, she shared her thoughts without fear, and she seemed lighter, happier, and more confident. He also noticed a shift in himself. He was learning to slow down, to pay attention, to listen, and to value emotional presence over work or status. Mia's influence, subtle as it was, had begun to reshape their small world, creating a sense of warmth, trust, and hope that had been missing for far too long. And as Ethan watched Mia interact with Lily, gently guiding her, encouraging her, and sharing moments of laughter, he understood that life had a way of surprising people in the most meaningful ways. The simple act of a hug, a kind word, an attentive presence had transformed not only his daughter's world, but also his own. He realized that some connections were rare and powerful enough to change lives, and this one, between Mia, Lily, and himself, was already doing just that. Over the next few months, Ethan noticed a shift in his life that he hadn't expected. It began quietly, almost imperceptibly, with small changes in Lily's behavior. She laughed more freely, she shared stories about her day with excitement, and she ran to Mia whenever they visited the diner. Ethan felt a deep sense of relief and gratitude. For so long, he had worried that Lily's sadness would define her childhood, that the absence of her mother would leave her permanently lonely. Now, with Mia's presence, he saw a light returning to her, a light that had been dimmed by grief, but was now growing steadily. Ethan knew he had to act carefully. Mia's bond with Lily was precious and delicate, and he didn't want to risk it by rushing or pressuring her. He spent time reflecting on what he could offer, not as a billionaire, not as a father trying to compensate for the past, but as a person seeking to create a safe, loving environment for his daughter. He realized that Mia wasn't just a friend to Lily. She was someone who could bring stability, understanding, and care into their lives in a way he hadn't been able to do alone. One evening, after a long day at work, Ethan found himself at the diner with Lily again. Mia was there, wiping down tables and smiling as Lily ran toward her. Ethan felt a warmth he hadn't felt in years as he watched the interaction. Lily hugged Mia tightly, and Mia held her with the same gentle patience she had shown from the very first day. Ethan noticed how naturally Mia had become part of Lily's world. It's not just a comforting presence, but a source of joy and security. He felt a pang of realization this was more than a friendship. Mia had become a bridge between the past and the possibility of a brighter, happier future for his daughter. After they left the diner, Ethan hesitated. He had spent weeks thinking about how to approach this carefully, how to express what he felt without overstepping boundaries. He looked at Mia, whose eyes reflected the same calm kindness they always did, and took a deep breath. "Mia," he began softly, "I don't want to pressure you, but I was wondering, would you consider spending more time with Lily? Not just at the diner, but with Usmabi, even at home sometimes." Mia paused, slightly surprised, but not uncomfortable. She glanced at Lily, who was smiling shyly beside Ethan, and then back at him. I don't know," she said honestly. "I care about Lily so much, but I'm not sure if I fit into your world." Ethan shook his head gently. "It's not about my world, Mia. It's about hers. She needs someone like you, someone who truly understands her, and I can't provide that alone. I just want her to have more people in her life who care." Mia looked thoughtful. She had always wanted to make a positive difference in children's lives, and here was an opportunity to do so with a child who clearly needed love, attention, and understanding. She thought about Lily's smiles, her laughter, and the moments she had shared with her. Slowly, a small smile formed on Mia's face. "All right," she said quietly, "I'll try." For Lily, Ethan felt a wave of relief and gratitude. He didn't say anything else at that moment. He simply nodded, letting the promise hang in the air between them. Lily, sensing the significance of the moment, even in her childlike way, threw her arms around Mia and whispered, "Thank you." Mia hugged her back tightly, and Ethan watched, realizing that this small decision could change their lives forever. In the weeks that followed, Mia began spending more time with Ethan and Lily outside of the diner. They would go to parks, have small picnics, or read stories together at home. Mia's presence brought a sense of normalcy and warmth that Ethan hadn't realized was missing. He noticed Lily thriving under this attention. Her confidence grew. She spoke more openly, and she seemed happier than she had in years. For Ethan, it was a profound relief and a lesson in humility. He had tried to do everything perfectly as a father, but it had taken someone else's kindness to show him what his daughter truly needed. Ethan and Mia also began to develop a deeper connection. It wasn't rushed or overwhelming. It was natural, built on shared experiences, mutual respect, and the understanding that they both cared deeply for Lily. Ethan admired Mia's strength, her empathy, and the way she could make complex emotional moments feel simple and safe. Mia admired Ethan's dedication to his daughter, his willingness to reflect, and the genuine love he had for Lily, despite his past mistakes and busy life. Together, they began forming a small but strong family unit, built not just on circumstance, but on trust, love, commitment. As the months passed, holidays and special occasions brought them closer. For the first time in years, Ethan could imagine celebrations filled with laughter, warmth, and togetherness. Mia and Lily would decorate the apartment with small crafts, and Ethan would watch, smiling quietly, marveling at how much joy had returned to their lives. He realized that happiness wasn't something to be bought or achieved through success. It was created through love, care, and shared experiences. And in Mia, he saw someone who could help create that happiness for Lily every single day. One evening, as they sat together reading a story before bed, Ethan noticed how Lily's eyes sparkled with excitement, and how she leaned comfortably between him and Mia. He felt a surge of emotion, understanding that this simple moment symbolized the healing that had taken place. For years, he had worried that Lily's childhood would be overshadowed by grief and loneliness. But now, with Mia as part of their lives, there was laughter, security, and hope. It was more than he had dared to imagine. Ethan reflected on the journey that had brought them here, from a simple hug in a diner to shared dinners, playful afternoons, and quiet bedtime moments. Every small step had built a foundation of trust, love, and connection. He realized that sometimes life's most important changes begin with the smallest acts of kindness, and that people who touch your heart can appear in the most unexpected places. Mia had entered their lives as a stranger, yet she had become indispensable, showing both father and daughter that love and care could heal even the deepest wounds. The story of their little family became a testament to the power of empathy and human connection. Lily thrived in the safety and affection she now received. Ethan learned to be a more present and understanding father, and Mia discovered the profound joy of being part of a child's life in a meaningful way. Together, they began to create a future filled with warmth, laughter, and love, a future that seemed brighter than anything Ethan had ever imagined when he had first walked into that diner. Burdened by grief and uncertainty, in the final weeks of the year, as winter approached, Ethan, Mia, and Lily celebrated their first holiday together. The apartment was decorated simply but beautifully, filled with the laughter and energy of a family finally finding its rhythm. Lily ran around joyfully, showing Mia the little crafts she had made, while Ethan watched, a full heart swelling with gratitude. He understood that while life could be unpredictable and sometimes painful, it could also bring unexpected blessings in the form of human connection, love, and shared moments that no money could ever buy. And as they sat together that evening, sharing a quiet moment of warmth, Ethan realized the truth that had guided every step of their journey. Love, care, and empathy were the forces that truly changed lives. Mia had not just comforted Lily. She had transformed their lives, teaching them both how to give, receive, and cherish the simple, meaningful moments that truly mattered. In her presence, Ethan saw a new beginning, a chance to rebuild, to heal, and to create a family that was stronger, happier, and full of hope for the future.